violent child. I can hurt people. Most people know to stay on the right side of the Devers family. I'm what you meet if you ever find yourself on the wrong side. People say they're trouble, the Devers.
I didn't get the joke, lads.
But I say all families have their problems.
I don't want him to be around you. Because of the things that you do.
Wise up, Arm.
Wise up.
Yeah, wise up.
You were never like this before, you know that? Before them Devers got their hands on you.
We heard about this fella. But we think it's time to finish the job.
We have to do it.
This is not loyalty.
Please.
It's servitude.
You lied to me!
You have to get out of here. Someone bad is coming.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining us after we've all shown our appreciation for all those incredible caterers out there, as well as Thursday evening. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome our guests to our Q&A this evening to talk about Calm with Horses. Niamh Algar, hi Niamh, how are you?
I'm good, not bad, yeah, good. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. And we also have Cosmo Jarvis with us. How are you doing, Cosmo? You all right?
Oh, very well, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And director Nick Rowland. It's so weird doing all these pleasantries because we've just been sat here for the past 20 minutes. Listen, the film is out there. It's getting the most amazing response, from just constantly feeling like there's a conversation going on about this film since it was made available. Nick, it must feel, well, how does it feel for the film to kind of finally be out there for people to see?
Yeah, it's really exciting. Obviously, it had a slightly sort of stuttered entry after it had its cinema release, and then all the cinemas shut down about 3 days into our release. So there was a little bit of delay, but we're happy that people are seeing it now. And yeah, I mean the feedback's been amazing so far.
Have you been paying much attention at the feedback, or are you
way too much? Way too much. Yeah, yeah, more than I care to mention.
It's such. I mean, we've spoken about it already, Nick, and you know how much I absolutely admire so much about the film, and just think it's an incredible piece of filmmaking. And Niamh and Cosmo, I wanted to ask you in terms of what your initial reaction was when you read the script and heard about the project, and was it a kind of emotional connection that you had with it instantly? Niamh, do you want to pick on it?
Yeah, I just my agent actually read the script before I had, and he told me about it. And it's funny because the other day he sent me a text and he said, "Do you remember when I sent you this email that said this is a film that you're definitely going to do and you're going to love it?" Mm-hmm. And that's what he said. And I read it and I just said, "How can I audition?" And Shaheen Baig, who cast me in The Virtues, was casting this, and yeah, she just told me about Nick, and I met Nick, and then I met Cosmo, and just from day one, just from the story and then the team that was involved, I knew it was going to be really special, and it was a character that I hadn't tackled before, so that was exciting.
Yeah, Cosmo, what about for you? What was your reaction when you read the script?
Yeah, I really loved the way that it was written, and how specific it felt to the fictional environment it was set in. It was really a rare thing for me to find something where the language was so eccentric, but also, necessary for the story to be conveyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
I just like the language a lot.
Yeah, Nick. In terms of like the journey that the story had from obviously from the original, kind of short that it was to then it becoming a screenplay. At what point were you involved with that?
So I found the short story when I was at film school. I was doing my graduation film at the time, and I was trying to write a short film script, and I was doing a very bad job. So I was just reading as many short stories as possible, and came across Calm with Horses, and kind of fell in love with it. And Dan Emerson, the producer, at the time was an assistant at Working Title, and we were trying to find something to do with each other. So I sent it to him to try an option. And then when I was casting my graduation film, I was meeting these agents at Troika and mentioned that I was trying to get this story. And it just so happened that they were also trying to option the same story for Michael Fassbender's production company, DMC. So they said, well, why don't you and Dan come and do it with us? So then we got the option. We started working with Film 4, and then Joe Murta, who adapted it, went to film school with me, and we did all our shorts together. So it was nice to be able to sort of continue that relationship through to our first.
And was that an easy journey in terms of kind of adapting that story into a fully formed feature film screenplay? In terms of, I imagine it was quite a collaborative process with the two of you having a very clear vision of what you wanted the film to be.
Yeah, I think the short story was 70 page. It was like a 70-page novella, so it was a nice kind of skeleton. Rather than a novel where you're like having to sort of condense everything. It was more kind of fleshing the story out, I guess, a little bit more. And yeah, working with Joe was great because we'd done so much together and we'd sort of gone through film school together. It just means that we don't have any. We're not self-conscious around each other, and we're not scared of seeming foolish around each other. So we can happily come up with terrible ideas in front of each other, and sometimes it will lead to something good. But it was quite an organic process.
I couldn't believe that this was your first full-length feature because it's such an accomplished piece of work on so many levels. I mean, visually, particularly, I think it's just absolutely stunning. Was it an easy film to decide how it would look, because the look really affects the emotion of the film and the kind of the tone of the film, I think?
No, it was actually quite difficult, and like a lot of I guess in many ways the story is quite classical and there is a simplicity to it, but tonally there's a lot going on. There's crime, the spine of a crime thriller. And then you have a kind of emotional family drama, which is the heartbeat through the film. And then there is this kind of heightened eccentricity at times to the dialogue or the tone of the world. So, I mean, it got scarily close to the first day of principal photography, and we still hadn't quite figured out like how we were going to shoot it and stuff. And I think in the early, especially like in the early days. I think I was guilty of, finally getting an opportunity to make a film. So I tried to make every film I've ever loved, ever. And I was trying to mix all these things together, which probably would never have worked. But we kind of aimed for a kind of heightened ordinary, I guess, and try to find a language where you could kind of go from a base of naturalism in the performances, but move into slightly more kind of expressionistic, more subjective sequences, like in the nightclub and stuff like that. So a lot of it came down to like the point of view of the story, and the more we told it through Arm's subjective point of view, the more we could be, I guess. Yeah.
Cosmo, for you, in terms of bringing this character to life and kind of finding Arm's voice, you obviously have the script to go by as well, and I imagine a lot of conversations with Nick as well about what he wants as a director. But for you, finding that character, was it an easy thing to to kind of navigate to where the Arm that you wanted to represent?
I guess one thing that always sucks is that there's never enough time. Like, it would really realistically take like an entire lifetime to really get to know somebody's nature. So given that we only had a finite amount of time to like get going on all of that, it was I felt a lot of what's the word? Like, I felt like there were a lot of versions that there could have been, and I wanted to kind of use as much time as I had in the lead up to try and come to a conclusion.
Because he's on the surface level he's one thing, but there are so many layers to him as well, as the story unfolds, and that's, he's such a beautiful character, really, when you kind of peel back the kind of that sort of superficial layer of what people can sometimes jump to conclusions about people. And I wanted to talk to you about, because Nick, when we spoke earlier and stuff, you were like, oh, I met Cosmo just before we started filming, and then I didn't meet him again, till after we'd finished filming. And talk about that whole process of feeling completely submerged in the character to the point that you kind of need to be him for the entirety of the shoot. Why is that important for you?
Well, it's just like it's a logical, for me, it's just a logical thing to do. And maybe it's wrong. I don't know, but it feels like it helps me maybe do some alleviate bits of like unknown stuff or guesswork in the long run by experimenting in that way. But I actually just really enjoy doing that.
Well, hey, it worked.
Thank you very much for saying that.
Because you're brilliant in it. It's so good. And Niamh, I mean, Ursula's just this. She's just. I know there's quite a lot of backstory there that we kind of, you get little glimpses of things that might have gone on and got her to the point that we find her in and stuff. And is that an important thing for you to kind of explore before you dive into the places that we find her in the film?
Yeah. 100%. Because what I wanted to make sure was to represent, especially because you don't really know where exactly Ursula is coming from, and she's got a lot of anger at the start towards Arm's character. That my fear was that I didn't want to ever portray this female character who just hated her spouse and wanted to get away from him, and you don't ever see the reason behind that. And there's a way of getting that wrong and just playing it very one note. But what I loved about Ursula is that she has this strength throughout that that's what she's holding on to, for fear of basically her kids going down the wrong path. And I think that it was just maintaining that path for her and to not make it so kind of one-dimensional. And I think it's important that you do the research and kind of figure out who they were before all this happened, so that you are rooting for that kind of spark to reignite potentially throughout the story.
Yeah. And apart from that kind of, research into her as a character, did either of you do, kind of much research prior to starting the film? Together? Yeah.
Yeah, we bought a bag of cans and we went down the canal. But we did. And we just chat, because as like what Nick said, it's like you don't really get much time for rehearsals a lot of the time, especially with independent film. And so I hadn't met Cosmo properly before that. I think we met like at the costume fitting. So he had been in Ireland for like 2 weeks, hanging around Loughrea, this really small little rural town in Ireland. And we bought a bag of cans and a load of crisps, and we just sat down the canal and just chatted.
In an effort to recreate a vague the past may have held. And just chatting shit for hours and hours.
Amazing. What did you when you rocked up to this little Irish village? Did you what were you just did you just kind of introduce yourself to everybody and was like, all right, and just sort of hanging out with all the locals?
Oh yeah, I mean, as much as possible, I was.
Awesome.
I didn't want them to sniff me out.
How the accent's incredible as well, Cosmo. Was that an easy thing for you to to find his voice, because that's a physicality to him that's really important as well. He's a man of few words, but when he does speak, it's you kind of hold on every vowel and syllable and sound that he makes, really.
One of the things in the script early on that was pretty striking to me was how little he did speak, and then obviously there was the kind of massive fear of actually having to master the dialect of this other place. But Niamh, Niamh was only Sligo, which isn't that far from the fictional place where this is set. So
no, Westmeath, it's more Midlands, but
it's closer than Devon.
Closer than Devon.
So that was, and we had lots of people on the crew as well. That was a constant source of what's the word, pronunciation sort of education.
And we did dialect coach as well. So
Paddock Cox, absolute legend.
That was handy.
And Barry as well. This kind of, talk about a kind of sort of villain in a film sort of thing as well. I mean, that whole family are kind of almost like a kind of a big sort of villain, but oh man, you're like, in terms of like the way that you've been able to, and through the script and through how you've shot it and your performances, that you connect with these characters so kind of quickly that you're rooting for them, and you're rooting for Arm, and every time sort of Barry's character's around, you're just kind of you kind of feel yourself just being really physical about it. And that's just I think because the way you've brought it to life, the story and the truth that's in the performances and the way that you've shot it, Nick, as well. And I think that I was wondering if that was a word that you used a lot in terms of kind of truth, of these characters, of their situation. And
I think it was always, I think with an independent small film, we, in terms of spectacle, the main thing we can provide is a story that has amazing performances and a truth, like an emotional truth to them, and I think that's something we're always trying to focus on with the story, and actually what the reason I was interested in the story was that it is this kind of crime gang story, but actually I thought there was a lot of heart and sort of sensitivity within that, and always the focus was on trying to bring out that sensitivity, I guess. So that was kind of I always felt like that was very present in our minds.
And the young lad who plays Jack, is it Kieran? Killian. I mean, was he 5 or something when you? Oh my God! I mean, that extraordinary. I mean, that the character, portraying the character of Jack properly in the film was for me, that was what I saw as the biggest challenge of the film. Obviously, that there's the more obvious challenges of like the stunts and the logistical things and all the rest that goes with filmmaking, but we really wanted the portrayal of autism in the film to be done right and to be authentic. So, I mean, first of all, we developed the script with the National Autistic Society for several years, so they were always giving us feedback and help in developing the character, but then it became very clear through their advice that as you'll know from some of the scenes, they're very harrowing or very could be very stressful. So we had to sort of find a local boy in Ireland, and just Killian he'd never acted before, he'd never been on a set before, so we were really starting from scratch. But he's so emotionally intelligent beyond his years, and he was just he was perfect. He became so reliable, and I actually went from the thing I was most worried about to actually we didn't, it just became a very normal part of the day. And we were being encouraged at time, in the casting process, maybe we should try and find a slightly older kid, because because Killian was 5, it meant he could only be on set for 5 hours of half a normal shooting day. Yeah. Which and sometimes he's in a 7-page scene or something. So it was quite hard for Cosmo and Niamh at times, because just in terms of sometimes we'd have to shoot the scene in quite a disjointed way to kind of focus on Killian's coverage first, and then it would often be a slightly counterintuitive way of actually shooting the scene, but it was just the way we had to do it. man, you can't tell at all. It's just, yeah, I mean, that scene at the fun fair, Cosmo, with you, and oh wow, what an amazing thing to watch. What was that? What was the experience working with the?
Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's good to have somebody who frequents the idea of playing more often than I do, who could tell me when I was not doing it right, and so yeah, it was great. It was really good to have somebody who could smell dishonesty a mile away, and it was also just having him there in general just made things very real anyway. I don't know why, but it did for me.
The fun fair was probably one of the harder scenes to shoot with Cillian, because you're shooting when you're shooting a scene at a real fun fair with real rides and real sweets everywhere and all that sort of stuff. There's lots of
real time limits.
Yeah, there's lots of more fun things that he can think of doing rather than being on camera. It was fun.
Beforehand, then, just in terms of I guess forming trust and a bond and stuff as well, and because the chemistry between the three of you on screen is so pure.
Yeah, we went on a little day trip where we went to we went to like one of those like adventure parks,
like a padded fortress.
Yeah,
with four pools and craziness. Like
it was actually our production office. We just had a very weird production office.
Oh yeah,
it was in the basement of like a kiddie play area or something.
I learned so much about football on that, because like literally between takes, he would like pick up to what he was just talking about, and he was like, "So Niamh, what I was trying to tell you about is this team." And you're like, your mind is like elsewhere trying to like remember lines, like killing you, just feeding you with like football knowledge.
Catching it on and getting straight in here for the next.
Yeah,
he's not way. He can just come and just go, just anything. Yeah.
He's not thinking about the scene. He doesn't go, "Oh, did I do that? Was that all right? Was that all right?" Damn.
Yeah.
Next thing. Anyway. What were you? Did you have music in your headphones, Cosmo, when you were listening to music?
When?
In those
in the scenes. In the scenes.
Not right now.
The Chariot.
Yeah.
The Chariot. That's the band.
Yeah, did you have? Were you listening? Oh, that's who you were listening. Your band.
The Chariot. They're called the Chariot. They're heavy as death. They're so heavy.
Oh wow. Okay. I love that. That's what you were listening to. Terrifying.
Everyone should go check them out.
I will definitely after this. Were they when you walk away from something like this, that the intensity of it, just in terms of it being, how long was the shoot for, Nick?
I think it was like 28 days, 30 days, something like that, just under 30 days, I think.
Yeah. Imagine with that piece of time.
Yeah, really. We were developing the script for 3.5, almost 4 years. So it's kind of, you spend years talking about a scene and then you have an hour and a half to shoot it. So there's always a pressure that comes with that. We were very ambitious with the resources we had, and like I say, with the car. The car chase, we only had a day to film, and
wow,
a lot of days we had very little room for no margin for error at all, really. So there was always everyone else seemed to be having a lot of fun, but I just remember being stressed most of the time. But I can look back on it fine.
Shoulders dropped. Everybody can just sit in and watch and enjoy the film now. Did you enjoy the car chase, Cosmo? I love that scene. It's brilliant.
It was a lot of fun. It was good. It was really good. And the stunt team driver, whose name I forget, unfortunately, Brendan, absolute legend. And they were. I've never felt safer. Yeah.
Is there just a slight tone of irony?
No. Seriously, that was genuine. I was just, I'm Nick. being an ex-rally driver, was able to tell me how to look like I could do a handbrake turn, which is always useful because I can't do a handbrake turn.
Were the easy characters to say, goodbye to and sort of switch off from? Or is there an element of kind of decompression after working on a film like this?
I don't know. I think you take time to decompress. I do anyway with most projects, but I don't know it's harder when stuff is kind of closer to you. Or I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, because he slipped straight into his own accent, because he stayed in accent the entire time.
Yeah.
So I felt like,
was it literally Cosmo went straight back into Devon?
Yeah.
I guess I try.
I certainly remember the rap party. Yeah. Cosmo came back very quickly, and I was like, I literally felt like I hadn't seen you for weeks, since London, and it was very sort of surreal.
Because then when it's the final one, then it's just like you've got permission then, I guess.
Yeah.
And but then it's like the realization that you're now unemployed comes a little bit later, and then that sets in, and the fact that you're probably never gonna work on such a wonderful script and all that kind of thing sets in, and suicide. No.
Yeah.
Just
you miss people like it's. I find like it's like going to summer camp for 28 days and you get to know people really well and make an instant bond, and then call cut and everyone goes back to their another job, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
No, it's really hard. You make you get close to people really quickly, and then it's just all over and you move on.
I meant to ask you this at the start, Cosmo, but how would you describe Arm?
Oh.
Warmed you up nicely. I thought I'll come back to it.
Like, weirdly present, but maybe detrimentally present to his own self. Maybe, like his lack of. I mean, I can't do it in one word or anything like that, but his lack of existential analysis, maybe on the future and his past and what people around him say, means that he must be very present, a kind of present, not the kind of presence that's fashionable or useful, but that's how I describe him, just kind of detrimentally present.
Brilliant. Amazing. Nick, what do you want people to get from the film?
Well, first and foremost, I hope they're entertained by it. I think it's. I find what I always touched me about Arm is this: he's a character that has never really backed himself, or he doesn't really give himself enough credit. And that's for me the tragedy of the piece is actually it takes him a while to sort of allow himself to be loved. So I guess that's for me the way I always kind of saw the story is there's all, not just Arm, but all of the characters are sort of trapped by a kind of selfish type of love, where they're all holding each other back for different reasons and for selfish reasons, kind of that is disguised as love, but it's kind of not a good type of love. So it's, for me, the story is about breaking that and sort of moving towards a selfless, truer sort of love, I guess.
Yeah. And we haven't even mentioned War by Blank Mass as well, which just complements the film, is just, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, that was personally for me. That was one of the most fun parts of I always love the sound, not just the score, but the sound design element of the story, it was really key. Again, because in the prose and in Colin's writing, he has such a kind of, he's objectively and quite bleak, brutal, around these kind of nefarious characters and stuff like that, but he writes about them with a real point of view, and kind of he kind of sees them through a slightly poetic lens.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you're trying to bring that to the screen, when you can't rely on his writing, it became clear that music was going to play a big part of kind of creating that tone. But it also had to go, it had to dance from these kind of emotional, melancholic kind of places. It had to also service the thriller crimes sides. So what's great about Ben's music is it can just effortlessly dance between these two sort of tones, and it feels complete rather than feeling like you're sort of jumping genre or anything like that. So
Yeah.
And it comes out on vinyl and CD soon.
Yeah.
I'm just personally excited to have a vinyl.
Amazing. Guys, thank you so much for your time tonight, and huge congratulations on the film, because it is just beautiful and it's really moving, and the performances are mind-blowing. They really are. You've made a beautiful film, Nick, and your performances are brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Have a
Thank you.
lovely evening.
Really lovely to chat to you. Take care, guys. Thank
Bye.
you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Take
See
care.
you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh man.